Hello and welcome to Digitech. Today we're going to be working on a project called The Box. It's based on a project from a famous JavaScript textbook, and it's going to be introducing functions and buttons and stuff like that. The usual project setup here in front of you at the moment, we're just going to the Svelte template, clicking the Use Template button and copying it to our own repository. We just called it The Box. You can call it the locked box or whatever you want to call it, but we're just going to open it up in desktop and get everything up and running. Cloning it down to the laptop, so we've got a local copy to work on, and then just opening up in Visual Studio Code so that we can start writing some stuff. So, as I mentioned, this one's going to be introducing functions and buttons and binding those buttons to the function so that when you click on it, it'll run the function. This one's a useful thing for any kind of input, so like submit buttons or answering questions, quizzes, stuff like that. Anything where you want a click to happen, you'll be using similar functionality to what we're going to do today. So npm run dev to start the server, and I'm just going to close this window because we have one on another desktop. And refreshing, we can see that the server is up and going. Yeah, and in the source code folder, we've got index.svelte as always, and we can just delete the stuff that comes with the template because we won't need it for right now. And the first thing is we're going to start off with the script today. Often we'll get straight into the HTML, but for this one, the main thing about the project is the object called the box. So we want to kind of define that first and set out what we're kind of be dealing with when we're clicking on the buttons, what we want it to do to the box. So the box is an object denoted by the curly brackets, and each property of the object has the name of the property and then a colon and then what you want that property to be. So this box only has two properties. It's got whether it's locked or not, so that's a true or false, a boolean value, and then we've got a contents, which is an array of whatever the box contains. You can put whatever you want in there. I've got thing 1, 2, and 3. And now down in the HTML, the first thing to start writing would be just to get a little if statement to show whether the box is locked or not. So the if statements, you could do it like this, where you're just checking if locked equals true. But because locked itself is true or false, you can just say if the box is locked. So if box.locked, and that value will be true or false. Just saves a little bit of typing there. So if the box is locked, we'll just have a paragraph that says the box is locked. Else, we'll assume that the box is unlocked. You could have an if else in there if you want to be really specific, but in this case, with this kind of basic example, there's only really two states, and we don't really need to cover the third. So we can see the code is working, the box is saying that it's locked, and if I just change the variable manually, it says that the box is unlocked. Cool. So we'll just change it back to be true, because that's kind of what we want it to be to start off with as our default value. And next we're going to write in a couple of functions to change whether it's locked or not. Now, I thought about whether to use the new JavaScript function style with like writing const and then the function name and then equals, brackets, pointy arrow, all that kind of stuff. And I decided to go with this way because it's really, really clear what's happening. Function and then name and then curly brackets. So that's the style that I've gone with for this example. So we've got two functions, they're basically just the opposite of each other. Lock will set the locked value to be true. Unlocked will set the locked value to be false. You could have also gone with a toggle function. So have, instead of two separate functions, you could have one toggle function so that if it's locked, it unlocks, and if it's unlocked, it locks. But for clarity's sake, we've gone with this way. Now I'm in the if statement, and we are just adding one button to each of the two different things that can show up on the screen. So you'll notice that when we get to see the page, there's actually only one button showing at any one time. But right now I'm just looking up how to set it an on-click event. In the documentation it's called on event name because there's a whole bunch of different things you can do. The one we're interested in is this one, on click. So you can see onClick equals, and then you type in the name of the function that you want. So onClick equals, and then we'll type in, this is the unlock button, so we want the unlock function. Down here, I want to click, this is the lock button, even though I forgot to update the label on the button, but we want that one to call lock. So I'll save that and have a look, and the box is locked with an unlock button. Then when I tested it, you can see that the label on the button doesn't change. That's because they were accidentally both called unlock. Updating those, now we can see that we can lock and unlock the box with just a single button. With that, I think we've got basically our first version, and we can commit that. It's very simple, but it's got the basic functionality there of being able to change a variable within that object just by clicking on a button. So the box is lockable and unlockable. We don't need to publish it yet because we're not quite finished. It would be nice to be able to see the contents of the box, or at least know that you can't see this stuff. So here I'm just writing a quick comment into the HTML to make it clear that when the box is locked, it should not display the content. But in the second if statement, we do want to see the content, and because the content is in an array, we can loop through it with the each statement. So you can see it says each items as item. So items is the name of the array. For us, it's going to be box.contents. And then you write as, and then the name of kind of like the variable that you want to be calling it within the loop. So what each item inside the array you want to reference it. And here I'm just going to print it out. So it's going to go through all of the contents and print it out one at a time with no HTML around it at all. And so it all sticks on the same line with no spaces or anything. Doesn't look great. The contents is a list, so we might decide to use an unordered list and stick the loop inside that. Tab it in to make it look nice. And each item is its own list item, so we'll put it inside the li tags. Save that after we tidy up all the white space. And now if you unlock the box, we get to see thing 1, 2, and 3, which are the contents. That will be our next version, because now we can have a locked box, click a button to unlock it and view the contents, and then click a button to relock it and hide the contents again. That looks pretty good. Having a look through the code, you can see it's basically 2 sections of an if statement, that's about it. And then I went to show the commits, and when I click on it, there's only one, which confused me for a second, and then I realized that I hadn't yet published all the changes to push them online. Once that's finished uploading, we'll be able to refresh the GitHub page, and there are our commits. So you can see the versions as we built them. We can go back to the main page, have a look at the source code in the index.svelte and see all of our changes laid out nicely with syntax highlighting as well. So that's the whole project. We went over objects and arrays, which is standard JavaScript, but the Svelte stuff is the button on click event and the looping through the array with an each statement.